Sometimes she's on mute or on video, so we'll see what she can do tonight.
For sure.
Yeah. Whatever she's at.
Welcome, welcome. Kirsten is connecting to audio, I see. And
Oh, good. Okay.
a
Awesome.
moment. Yeah.
Are you snowy in Colorado Springs a little bit? No?
Not yet. I'm told that usually by Halloween we get it jumping, but that did not happen last year either. I think that it's getting warmer here too, but certainly we'll be getting it soon. So
Did you let Julie in? Because it looks like a lot. There she is. Okay.
mhm.
Hey, Julie.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome. I'm Chris Quinones. I'm so happy to be here tonight. We're just letting people in as they arrive, and I'm going to just kind of chat for a couple of minutes before jumping into what I've got planned for us tonight. So I'm really happy that you took the time to join. Where are you joining from?
Atlanta.
Atlanta. Nice. Hi, Leah. Welcome. Where are you joining us from?
Just like she's trying to get her audio.
Give her a moment.
You there, Leah?
Yes,
There you
sorry.
Where are you joining from?
Ackworth, Georgia.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Right outside, close to Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta Metro.
Yep.
Right on. Well, as people kind of mosey on in, like I said, I'm just going to start talking a little bit about what I have planned for our time together. I'm actually broadcasting out of Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I'm joining Kristen and her community for this upcoming collaboration of Women on the Remake, and just sharing a bit about my story and how I've made some really big, deep changes in my personal life and also as a practitioner. I've been a professional massage therapist and Ayurvedic body worker now for over 15 years. And before that, I worked in orthopedics and sports medicine. I thought I was going to medical school to be a surgeon. Aha, life had different plans for me. And so I also am a competitive athlete. I grew up a competitive athlete in every sport you could imagine. And then as an adult, I still compete with tennis and Latin ballroom dancing. Those are my two areas where I like to really rev things up. And so, you know, I'm fairly new to Colorado, moved here a little over a year ago, and I am teaching people about this beautiful system of Ayurveda and how this system really can help you unlock your capacity to self-heal, to re-identify with who you want to be and get to work. You know, it's really a simple system, but very rich and deep, layered with tradition and philosophy, and coming from a culture and a time where music and science and art and healing were combined on a daily basis. So it's a very rich system. And my particular training and experience with it is largely in the body worker. The bodywork realm as a body worker. I'm also an Ayurvedic health counselor, so I do work one-on-one with clients as well as in some of my group coaching programs on how to teach you to age more skillfully, age more wisely, and slow down that natural degenerative process that comes with aging. And because I'm a soft tissue expert, I get to geek out all about fascia. And I'm going to talk a little bit with you all today about how I've used some of the self-care practices in Ayurveda, more specifically the self-massage with oil referred to as Abhyanga, and why that can be why it has been for me such a strong aspect of my healing and how you might be able to get your own practice started. You'll notice a couple of links that I put in the chat, both to my website, a couple of resources I'm going to mention. Some of them are links to my Vimeo channel where some of these massage techniques are recorded, and you're welcome to go there and just watch it a couple of times before you try it out yourself. And I'll be talking a little bit about how to actually execute it, when you want to do it, when you don't want to do it, and frankly, why you should care, why we're even here today, right? Because there's plenty of massage out there. There's so many modalities out there. And I've been in the body work, healing, mobility, soft tissue profession now for a couple decades. So I'm really invested. My personal journey started when I was a competitive martial artist. And in a competition, I tore some cartilage in my hip called the labrum. It's a thin piece of connective tissue in between the ball and the socket. And it tore badly. And I dislocated my hip. And it was a long process of getting over that injury and the chronic pain that resulted even after I had my surgery and all the PT and all the rehab. Was still another long 5 years before I could really get rid of this chronic pain. And in treating that injury, I learned that I have a congenital condition called hip dysplasia. I didn't know that. I grew up a competitive gymnast. My body always adapted to the movement that I was creating on a daily basis. So it was never a problem for me until now, where I didn't have this tissue to stabilize that joint. And I was learning that my joint was very shallow. So the socket didn't have a lot of coverage for that ball. And as such, it means that I'm at a much higher risk for that joint to wear down more quickly. I learned this when I was 22. And I was told at that time I would need a bilateral hip replacement by age 30. And maybe I'd be able to walk with full function. So as a competitive athlete, that just wasn't part of my game plan. And so I was on a mission to find out what I could do to slow down that wear and tear. And I had already found massage. So I was doing a lot of self-massage, going to get massage on a regular basis. But it wasn't until I found Ayurveda and started living these specific habits of the yogis, these habits of circadian living, to tap into my body's capacity to control the inflammation and to slow down that aging process. And I don't know how many of you are very familiar with Ayurveda, but it is this vast traditional medical system of India, over 5,000 years old, and arguably the longest continuously practiced medical system in the world. And of the 8 different branches in this medical system, I specialize in Rasayana. Rasayana is the rejuvenation branch, the longevity limb of this system. So it's how do we repair and rejuvenate the tissues of the body? And these Vedic systems of yoga and Ayurveda do not see us as being the sole possessors of a single gross body. In fact, Ayurveda and yoga say we have 5 bodies. You have an energy body, you have an emotional body, you have a bliss body, you have an intellectual body. And so each of these bodies need care. And these habits, and the one I'm going to walk you through today, is probably the biggest needle pusher in my life to restore the burnout I was experiencing physically and energetically. I didn't even know it at the time until I wasn't feeling it as much anymore, and be able to take care of these joints. And I'm happy to say I'm still Latin dancing, I'm still playing competitive tennis, and I have all my original hardware, right? And no pain. So the long game is why we're here. The long game is why I care, because without having the right tools and skill sets and mindsets, who cares if you live long and you can't cope with life? Life is only getting more volatile and uncertain and chaotic and ambiguous. So it's time to ante up now more than ever if we want to really change our lives and change the lives of those around us. So that's a little bit about me and how I got started in this self-healing journey. I'm going to share my screen because I did prepare a couple of slides for you as well. I mentioned that we've got these 5 bodies. In Ayurvedic medicine, we also have 7 tissues. And each tissue builds and feeds and nourishes the subsequent tissue. And in Vedic medicine, the very first tissue is referred to as rasa. It's the liquid portions in your body. It refers to the chyle that's produced in the first stages of digestion. It refers to the lymph and plasma, cerebral spinal fluid, synovial joint fluid, your blood. All of the liquid in your body is the very first tissue. And it's the most important tissue in yoga and Ayurveda because the quality of this tissue generated from the nourishment you provide determines the health of every other tissue. Your blood, your bones, your muscle, your fat, your nervous tissue, even the marrow. And so when we start getting into the deeper waters of self-healing, we've got to make sure we've got the foundational blocks set. And having a healthy rasa dhatu, a healthy lymphatic tissue, is at the core of the work you're going to do in terms of aging intelligently. And you'll see on the screen here, breaking down the word in Sanskrit, it means so much more than just liquid or lymph. It is often referred to as melody, rhythm, enthusiasm, emotion, juice. It's like the zest for life. That's rasa. And it's so important that that's why we spend so much time focus on digestive strength and balancing of the gut so that we can create that really strong rasa tissue. Because, hello, have you seen the rise of autoimmune disease? You probably know someone who has some of these conditions, or maybe you even have one of these conditions yourself, or you're working with it. And so starting with rasa is the first key. And in a lot of the classic detox regimens in Ayurvedic medicine, some of the panchakarma and the classic detox and rejuvenation therapies that are done are aimed at rasa. Rasa takes care of imbalances in the body. Rasa moves stagnation. Rasa allows for the proper exchange of nutrients and waste between the cells, and it helps tonify the tissues. And so both systems in Ayurveda and yoga, they both agree that that gross body, the physical body and the tissues and the channels and the nerves and the organs, all of that has to be restored before you're going to pursue any kind of spiritual life or progress. If the channels are not clear, if the organism's systems are not functioning optimally, then we really clog those channels of consciousness. We're not able to allow that Kundalini energy, that divine intelligence to rise up the spine to the higher chakras of the crown. That's the whole point, right? Is to facilitate the rising of Kundalini. And massage is a huge part of that. In India and Ayurveda, babies are massaged from the moment they come out of the womb. They're not bathed. They're actually put in a tub of warm oil straight from the womb. And the babies are massaged every day. Can you imagine being massaged with warm oil every day for your life? I couldn't until I started doing it as an adult in Ayurveda school, as a practitioner. And that was when I started to see the more subtle layers of blockages in the tissues, in circulation, in digestion. And so that's the first kind of healing, if you will, that occurs. And then once we've reestablished proper flow and circulation to the musculoskeletal system, all of those channels that carry life force energy are going to be more functional, right? So your chakras and all of the directions of flow that prana goes in, up, down, out, in, sideways, right? And we can start to develop a greater mastery of showing where these flows should go. And as such, you'll then be able to get to those deeper healing layers, moving more into the mental body, the emotional body. And this is important so you can avoid dangerous patterns, dangerous belief systems, self-sabotage. This is what really protects your spiritual growth. And so that's why we care so much about rasa, right? Because if we don't, we've got a serious problem. And in Ayurvedic medicine, the problems of disease, all of these symptoms, no matter what the diagnosis is, all of these symptoms of bloating and gas and anxiety and poor sleep and poor digestion and stiff, painful joints, or Hashimoto's thyroiditis and irritable bowel syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome. I mean, shall I go on? Right? There's plenty. And the cause of that, according to Ayurvedic medicine, is this accumulation of these certain mind-body energies. And then that accumulation breaks the dam and leaves the anatomical home base in the human body. And now it's flowing freely. Now it's looking for vulnerable tissues, vulnerable organs and systems, spaces in the body that are weak to then go ahead and settle and take up shop in. And these are some of the first stages of pathology in Ayurvedic medicine, is this aggravation, accumulation, and distribution of this mind-body energy. And we refer to that as dosha gati. It is the improper flow of this energy in the body. We've got 3 of them, and they each are responsible for different functions, physiologically, psychologically, even in your personality and how you relate to people in the world around you. And the causes of disease are one of 3 things, or actually usually a combination of 3 things in Ayurvedic pathology. We've got changes in seasons, which are not necessarily a cause of disease, but it certainly is a window of time in the calendar year where those very same energies that are responsible for physiology are changing in the natural world. And so if our habits in the preceding season were such that they didn't balance certain qualities that were accumulating throughout the season, when the season changes, your physiology is late. It's not on the train, right? I have a Pitta Kapha constitution, for those of you familiar with some of these mind-body principles. And so for me, summer season, I have to be very careful not to overheat my physiology. And even with all the years of practice I have, sometimes I still do it in the end of August or in September, when the season starts to change and it starts getting cooler and drier in the climate, my body's still overheating and oily. And so sometimes when the season changes, if I have that accumulation, symptoms will manifest. I'll come up with cold sores. One summer was particularly challenging and stressful in my personal life. I was caretaking for an elderly person and my family member, and I got an eye sty. And so these are common symptoms of excess fire element. It wasn't fire season anymore, but I didn't take care of my physiology with some of these practices. So this is an area where a practitioner, or as you learn to self-heal using Ayurveda, you can look for maybe where things went awry. Another one is the misuse of your intelligence, making the wrong choices that are not wrong in terms of ethos per se, but non-beneficial. If it's not beneficial to your future self and identity and where you're trying to go, then you're going to be wasting a lot of time and moving backwards. And we often do that by using our tools, our sense organs, in the wrong way. We overuse them, we misuse them, we underuse them. I'm talking about your eyes, your ears, your tongue, your nose, your skin, all the sensory organs of the body. The yogis take some serious attention to caring for them, because those are the portals that you experience your life through, And the care of them will allow you to have a more clear perception of your world and what you need to do to keep up with it. Am I making sense so far?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good, Chris. Yeah. Yeah. They're all this group here, Susie, I'm so glad you joined. They know the terminology. So,
Okay, great.
you know, they're like, I can speak for everyone on that. Like a lot of it's new, but they know enough to follow you, especially talking about the subtle bodies. We've talked about, the koshas and the layers, that's familiar, and the cleanse. They all just finished up, some of them anyway, finished up a 3-day cleanse. So that affirmation from you on that was great for them to hear, I know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely with seasonal cleansing, that seasonal change, allowing the gut to reset, allowing digestion to reset, and allowing the space for rhythm to come back into our lives. And as I grew up a dancer, so rhythm is something that has always been ingrained. I grew up playing musical instruments. I dance professionally. If I am not on the right count on that downbeat, it shows, right? There's a dissonance in my performance that ripples out, and it might affect the partner I'm dancing with. It's going to affect how I'm trying to convey a certain emotion or artistic imagery that I'm trying to convey and connect with someone. And I see an Ayurvedic lifestyle very similarly, of tapping into that rhythm of nature, the circadian rhythm. When the sun goes up, when the sun goes down. When do you get up? When do you go down? When are you supposed to eat? When are you supposed to fast? When do you play? These are already laid out for us by these ancient Vaidyas, these wise souls from thousands of years ago, through direct knowledge and meditation, acquired this knowledge of Ayurveda on how to live better, how to be able to have enough gas at the end of the day to be able to get to the things you really care about, your passion projects, your relationships, your future identity. I reached my breaking point a couple of years ago when I was in Boston, Massachusetts. I had a private practice that was very busy. I had a staff of about 4 to 6 people at any point in time, and I was working my butt off. I loved it, but I was also pretty burnt out and starting to get bored because I wasn't able to develop the right skill sets, tool sets to kind of keep up with my desires, right? So I knew I needed to change my surroundings. I needed to up-level my relationships. I needed to have a little bit more candid conversations with myself around my choices and where I self-sabotage and where I'm playing the victim mode. And playing that card of this is too hard. And, well, yeah, life is hard. And I come from a Latina family, very passionate, very robust, very tell it like it is. And it's kind of like, well, I have a choice. I can continue to be miserable here, working myself to death, or I can try a new place and new relationships and tap into the part of me that I kept putting off, the part of me that frankly was dying. Right. And there's a book that I just want to share an excerpt from one of my favorite books. I run a mind body book club here in Colorado. And one of my favorite books, life-changing book, was this title, Women Who Run with the Wolves.
Yeah.
Right. Wild Women. And in it, she talks about, she gives a whole collection of stories and anecdotes about the archetype female warrior. And one of them was talking about this story of this wolf woman who wanders around the land collecting bones. And I'm going to give just a paraphrase here, and you can get the book if you want to know more. But La Loba, which is Spanish for the wolf, it parallels world myths in which the dead are brought back to life. And a lot of other cultures have this too. In Egyptian mythos, Isis accomplishes this service for her dead brother. Osiris, who is dismembered by his evil brother Set every night. Isis works from dusk to dawn each night to piece back together her brother again before morning, or else the sun will not rise. Christ raised Lazarus, who had been dead so long he stinketh. Demeter calls forth her pale daughter in the land of the dead once a year, and La Loba sings over the bones. This is our meditation practice as women, calling back the dead and dismembered aspects of ourselves, calling back the dead and dismembered aspects of life itself. The one who recreates from that which has died is always a double-sided archetype. The creation mother is always also death mother, and vice versa. Because of this dual nature or double tasking, the great work before us is to learn to understand what around and about us and what within us must live and what must die. And that really spoke to me because I thought, yeah, man, I was dying in Boston. I was bored. My relationships got stale. I wasn't intellectually challenged as much. So I had to remake myself and make that jump to come here. And in doing that, make a choice to level up with these habits, which I had already been practicing and teaching other people for many years, but really take charge of my life again. And when we have these habits, we're living counterculture. We're living against mainstream culture to prioritize sleep and get rest, to not overfeed ourselves, to be able to sit in silence and choose a life of ease over and over and over again every day, making that choice 100 times a day. That's the real work. But you've got to have some juice to do it. And so one of my very first personal practices of an Ayurvedic lifestyle was a self-oil massage. It's referred to as Abhyanga. You might have heard of that word before. Broken down, it means to rub the limbs. And in the classics of yoga and Ayurveda, they say that the person who massages themselves daily is not affected by ill health. They live long. They have strong tissues. Why? Because there's so much tied into this consciousness. And we're so dissociated, I find, with our bodies, particularly in America, where we have a lot of unhealthy relationship with food and with body image and with how we relate and can actually inhabit our lives fully. And I started oiling my body every day when I started learning about this. Now you can use plain sesame seed oil. That's the best and classic in Ayurveda, good for all three doshas. It's also a bit warming, so it's particularly good for the cooler months or if you live in a part of the world with cooler climates. It's circulatory, and it's going to allow, when you're moving that lymph, you're going to allow that rasa dhatu to get moving again. And with the temperature of your hands and the electromagnetic force of your body, because you are an electric being, you actually produce electricity. When you're touching yourself, you change literally the fascia, that's connective tissue, that is the web within the body that encapsulates and holds every other system of the body. Again, coming back to rasa, right? Rasa is like the key to everything else going more smoothly. And so sesame seed oil is a base oil. If that's too heavy or too warming for you, or you're concerned about breaking out in the skin, if you have some oily skin type, for example, you could use a lighter oil. You could use jojoba, which is a nice, gentle, hypoallergenic substance. It's technically not an oil, it's an ester, but it provides the same energetic effect that oils do. You could use coconut oil for cooler months, or if you're having some symptoms of overheating. And you can use even mustard oil for your kapha types. But kapha types generally aren't going to be doing Abhyanga as much. They already have heaviness and oiliness, so they tend to fare better with dry brushing as their massage means. And for your Vata and Pitta counterparts, oil is going to be preferred, unless you're an oily Pitta. And if you're studying Ayurveda, you know it's a bit like Goldilocks. It's not too much, not too little, just getting the right dose for the right person at the right time. Start with sesame seed oil. Really easy. Even those who might have allergies to nuts or seeds, it doesn't tend to bother them or create a reaction. If you're concerned, then just do a test patch on the back of your wrist. Warm up your oil. It allows for a deeper penetration into the tissues. I used to start by warming my oil up in this small glass bottle and my coffee mug. And I would just pour my hot water from my tea kettle in the morning and let that warm it up in 10 minutes. And by the time I got out of the shower, it was ready for me. And I would oil myself up, put on my bathrobe, putz around the house for another hour, checking email, doing light housework, just getting my body moving as the oil was continuing to penetrate into my tissues. And then I would get dressed and start my day. Sometimes I would do the oil before the shower. And as I advanced in my practice, I then started doing my oil massage, followed by a home personal steam tent and doing a therapeutic sweat right after, which is the classic way in Ayurvedic massage is done. Some of the reasons why you would want to do this practice is it's a self-love practice. That touching ourselves in a very compassionate, non-sexualized manner is deeply healing. That this skin that we have is literally the boundary of ourselves and the world around us. And so that oil, whether it's an herbal formula or not, even just a basic oil like jojoba or sesame seed, is going to help seal in that life force energy, that prana. That was the biggest benefit I noticed when I first started this practice personally. I wasn't as tired at the end of the day. I wasn't as mentally exhausted. I wasn't as easily agitated and annoyed by stupid people. You know, like I had this literal coat and barrier so that my energy did not just kind of diffuse randomly throughout the day and bleed out unnecessarily. And it also created an energetic barrier where I was not absorbing energy that wasn't mine to absorb. Have you ever been in a room and maybe someone comes in a stank mood and you can like kind of feel that? It shifts energy. Conversely, if someone comes in robust and rah, ready to go, can really bring up a room. Abhyanga allows you not to be so susceptible to other people's energy because you're containing your own. The rubbing action of long strokes on the long bones, circles on the joints, is one that is very soothing to the nervous system. It helps control irregular sleeping patterns. It's it's very, very soothing massage. It's not about the pressure. It's not about working a knot out of that's a different kind of massage. Ayurveda massage is concerned with dosha gati. Where did the dosha travel to? Where does the lymph need to be moved? And how does the nervous system need to be soothed? I also do professional bodywork trainings for manual therapists, so you can get certified in offering these clinical abhyangas for other people. But for today, I just want to introduce you to this practice as a whole and why you want to do it, especially for women, perimenopausal, menopausal age, where that tissue is drying out at a faster rate, where the imbalances of our hormones are more clearly illuminated. I remember one of my teachers, Dr. Claudia Welch, saying, menopause is the great teacher for women. It teaches us what we've been sweeping under the rug for years before, the lack of self-care. It shows up when, again, trains leaving the station, just like the seasons change in the year, that your season of life is changing. And if you did not manage those energies as they accumulated in preceding years, you're just going to have a tougher go of it later. And you don't have to. Give yourself an oil massage. Warm the oil, rub it down all over your body using those strokes, and then hang out for a few. Sit on your meditation cushion with a towel, right? And allow for that integration, because I find that what often keeps people from doing this practice is blockages and trauma of just actually touching your body and being with yourself. And culturally, we have so many narratives around your body not being okay as it is. And so a big part of Ayurveda is the self. It's self-healing. The things that you need, they reside in here. They're not out there. They're here. And rubbing your body with oil, actually touching your body, gentle squeezes, strokes and rubbing, allows for the messaging to the nervous system that you are okay right now. All is well. You know, we have behind all of our stories of betrayal and hurt, trauma, whether it was physical trauma or more subtle trauma. You know, the nervous system starts to see the world as a dangerous place, starts to see intimacy as a dangerous thing. Whatever's out there, not safe. No thanks. Right? But when we're massaging ourselves, we're loving ourselves. It's actually an act of self-love. The Sanskrit word for oil is snehana. Snehana means oil. It also means love in Sanskrit, that love will heal all things, that you cover yourself with love. Allow the oil to penetrate the tissues, to move out dosha gati, to move the lymph, to move stagnation, to move prana and life force energy, move stool, move blood, move lymph. Stagnation is death, right? You move it or you lose it. And as a body worker and someone who dances, and I want people to understand how to slow down aging so you can stay mobile, you can stay agile, you can stay autonomous for the next 3 or 4 decades of your life, right? Not have to rely on someone else to take care of you or compromise on the hobbies and interests that you enjoy doing. The word svastha means rooted in self. That's the goal with these practices. You're rooted in your natural state. And when that happens, you're building body confidence. You're building confidence in your ability to cope with life. And it just feels great. And you can start really simply. If oil is just too complicated to start integrating into your daily life right now, fine, do it dry. Do it over your clothes even. Just follow me and just start by maybe some gentle tapping down the arms, maybe across the chest. Right, maybe down the torso and the legs. And just for something as short as 1 to 2 minutes as a practice is a way to start getting more svastha, getting back into your own being in a very loving, nourishing, rejuvenative way. And then you can rub, you can squeeze, you can try and like pick up the tissue and pull it away from the bones and really start to stretch. This is moving some of that fascia in a more deeper way. Foam rollers, massage balls, even just rolling around and playing on the floor is a great way to start embodying that confidence and start taking care of Rasa Dhatu, and to start really changing literally the very fabric of who you are. You're literally a shapeshifter. Fascia is constantly reorganizing itself to support you. That's part of the body's divine intelligence. It will just do it. You don't have to ask it, right? It'll just build more collagen fibers where you need more support and strength. It will give you more elastin where you need more flexibility and glide, but only if you're living the circadian habits. Otherwise, you're going against nature and it gets a lot harder. So this capacity to self-love and soothe is going to give you the longevity to be able to change and do difficult things in life. That's why it's important. This world needs us. This world needs some massive healing. And so we can't do that if we're constantly exhausted and putting everybody else first. Just can't do it. I'm so over women driving themselves into the ground for their families, for their careers, for whatever. You know, I'm just so over it. Like, we really have to start walking the walk if we want to do these things and enjoy life. What's the point of staying around till you're 100 if you're not feeling well, or your relationships aren't strong, and you're not confident in your choices and your body and your mind? It's not fun, you know. And I can get very riled up and passionate about it, as you can see. And it's just a means to inspire you, I hope, to start to see your body differently in a more tender, compassionate way, to start using some of the resources that I've put in the chat to buy some of these oils and start getting yourself in touch, literally, with your own being, with your own fiber, you know?
Yeah.
And then you're going to be able to sleep better. You'll sleep more deeply. You won't be as triggered because you're contained. There's a subtle containment. And through rubbing and squeezing and moving the body and pressing on it with a foam roller or a ball, we're literally wringing out the undigested parts of our lives from this connective tissue that is everywhere.
This is great, Chris. I want to hear what anybody else has to say and ask questions.
Yeah, I'll pause. I'll pause. That was mostly what I wanted to say. I have even, oh, you may not see it with my little thing here, but I have invested in one of my home steam chambers. This pink thing you see here is like a little tent, and you can sit in it, get the steam going. My head pokes out the hole on the top. I'm sitting in a chair, and after I've given myself some oil love, I'll sit in that for 15 or 20 minutes. And so the moisture and the warmth of that allow for the tissues and the channels of the body to dilate. And then that oil and the herbs that might be cooked in that formula, they're driven deep, down to the bone, down to the bone. You don't have to go buy one of these things, but they're not that expensive. It's only a little over $100 on Amazon. I bought this for like $120 5 years ago. I'm sure they're probably even less expensive now. But they're really simple practice, doesn't take up a lot of space, and allows for that deeper penetration and detox to happen. And as micro a detox is happening, when that becomes a habit and a practice that you're doing several times a week, or an almost daily practice, and then you stack that over months and years and decades, that's why I haven't needed a hip replacement yet. Every surgeon in Boston, top surgeons in the country, telling me you're going to need a hip replacement maybe in 5 years. And now I'm still rocking it. And I want you to rock it too, with confidence, with strength in the tissues, with longevity. And you can rebuild, you can shapeshift. I'm living proof. I'm not crumbling, right? Keep it slow. questions? I want to open it up in the next few minutes. I know I've been yapping. You'll see some links in the chat, both for my home practice, how to do an Abhyanga. I walk you through that. That's a 45-minute head to toe, full body, my routine. I also included a link to another video for a lymphatic massage just on the face for colds and coughs. So if you start to feel like you're coming down with some congestion, again, moving into the colder months, cold and cough season, it's a wonderful practice to do just for 10 or 15 minutes while you're in the shower or sitting in traffic, right? Making these things easy. We're not trying to add more things for you to do. We're trying to make you efficient. Leverage your time, leverage your focus, leverage your knowledge, because you have it. You know what's best. So, any questions, comments, anything you want to know or hear me speak more about? It's awfully quiet.
Well,
I know I threw a lot at you.
it was good. I know. I think everybody's really engaged. I think, your wealth of knowledge around this is just fantastic. And, they know I've really been encouraging self-massage but your history, your wealth of knowledge, your experience behind it, both physically and just with your education, I hope really has enlightened everyone to really think more about this becoming a very strong habit. I didn't really take this habit serious at all when I did Body Thrive the first time, when I started the Body Thrive habit 7 years ago. And I have found it to be one of the most incredible habits. It's been quite life-changing. And I think that description that you said about that barrier, that comfort, that protector is so exactly what I feel. And I think it's a part of me kind of taking this journey, this travel journey. I feel people like, you're crazy, kind of crazy, right? I'm like, no, I feel protected. I feel safe. I feel, yeah. And so I love that you brought that up, because that's not something I don't think that my group have heard that. They haven't heard that term from me. Mm-hmm. And so thanks for sharing that, because I really wanted them to hear that fluidity right there right there in the tissue, just that depth of impact that you can have. That's a habit that's getting maybe left out, can be one of the most transformative.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not kidding when I say it's probably the biggest habit to leverage your longevity.
Yeah.
You're getting circulation. Circulation is key for all the body systems, not just your digestive system, but your endocrine system, your nervous system, right? All of these other systems that require your care, your attention.
Yeah. And for me, I think it's like, I don't want to be the annoyer of pushing it, but I know that, everybody here within our group is dealing with some form of inflammation, and to understand from your perspective on the real clinical medicinal side of it, what they can really do to really help their bodies from the inflammation, the dis-ease that already exists, and just the chemicals that have had to go into the body for various reasons.
Yeah, very much. I mean, it's a whole body oil pull. It's like an oil pull for your soul.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally going to pull out that which is not digested, and it's going to direct it to the gut so you can poop it out, so you can get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Burn it off. It's really the only way to get rid of amas, to burn it off. You can't quite scrape it out.
Does the dry brushing have the same effect as the oil? Because have never been and am not an oil person. I don't like, even if I go to a massage, I do not want oil on me. I don't like it. I don't like the feeling of it. Mm-hmm. So, but I understand what you're saying.
What's the feeling? Is it just too heavy?
I don't know.
It's just like a sensory thing.
I just don't like it.
Yeah.
So it's
it
just,
will
I mean, but I
have-
like
it
the
will have
concept.
Some similar effects. It won't be identical, of course, because the nature of it is dry versus unctuous, which is oily.
Mhm.
Those properties have medicinal value, both of them, when applied intelligently. The circulatory effect is the same for both. I would even say more so with the dry brushing. With dry brushing, I also recommend raw silk gloves. Instead of the loofahs and some of the sponges you'll find at like Bed and Bath and Beyond, those are a bit too rough and are likely to agitate vata more,
Makes sense.
right?
Yeah.
So you
Where
really
you
don't,
go-
it doesn't need to be super rough. Doesn't need to be a pumice stone. It could just be a washcloth.
Mm.
Rubbing.
That would be good for you, Courtney. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I can do lotion, but I just can't do oils.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I would encourage you to experiment with different types of oil, different amounts of application of oil, and maybe even oiling just a small, like just your feet before bed. And if oil's not your jam, it's not your jam. At least get the touch there. At least bring your awareness back in. And whether you're foam rolling, that would be another recommendation I would make. And even looking on some YouTube channels for functional movement, where people are like kind of making these crazy rolling around on the floor and that kind of movement, that's massage. You're still working the fascia, you're still working rasa. And that's also why I love dancing. It's a way to move and massage without having to deal with a mess of oil.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
What would be your suggestion to everyone, Chris, as far as developing just a 2 to 3 minute habit? What would you say do? If you're just going to tack it on to something, stack it on to something they're already doing without feeling like they're taking time to do it, which, I think is well worth your time. But what would you suggest?
Start small. It doesn't have to be a full 45-minute full body session. You can work your way up to that. If you've got the time, great. Pick one day a week as your spa day, your self-care day, and go for it. But practically, you could just begin with a simple massaging of the feet before bed. Just start there.
Yeah, that's what I do every night. It's amazing how soft my feet are now. I had really disgusting, dry, cracked, terrible, and for a long time. And now, it's amazing how the nightly massaging just my feet actually helps with sleep as well.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we have a lot of energy points concentrated on the soles of our feet and in the palms of our hands, similar to acupressure points in Chinese medicine. There are similar points referred to as marma points. They're not the same, but for comparison, they're a good comparison. And you don't need to necessarily know the marma points. I mean, sure, you can learn them, you can study them, but just massaging the feet, you're hitting them. You're
Yeah.
hitting some key ones. And so just a thorough foot massage, you're not just soothing your feet. You're
Yeah.
soothing every system in the body, digestive, endocrine, nervous.
Yeah.
Just for the feet, I also recommend avoiding oil application if you're actively menstruating during your flow, if you have an active fever, cold, or cough. These are contraindications. You do not want to be doing oil massage then. When we're menstruating, it's one of the body's ways of naturally cooling itself by releasing blood. Blood is a hot tissue. Fire element and pitta imbalances often are found in the blood. That's why as the pathology progresses, all that heat in the blood is looking for an exit strategy, and it usually diffuses through the skin. And that's when we start having symptoms like rosacea and psoriasis and eczema and some of the acne problems and all the skin eruptions that are happening. And so cooling the blood is pretty key. And oil is a heating substance. And so if you have a fever or you're actively mid-cycle, like heavy flow, no oil. It's too heating. The body's menstrual cycle is already a natural balancing system. Just let it do it. But if you're abhyangaing, abhyanga-ing, yeah,
Mhm.
in between your cycles, yeah, thumbs up. Your cycles will be easier. You'll have less cramping. You'll have less clots. The blood will be brighter red. That's a good sign. These are the kinds of things that happen as we start to take care of rasa. So those are the times you don't want to do abhyanga or oil massage. You could still self-massage, of course, dry, over the clothes, squeezing, wringing, you know. It's really a practice in body confidence and a practice in cultivating awareness to yourself.
Yeah, I was a lotion user too. I mean, but I wasn't I wasn't adverse to oils either. So, think if you've got an adversity to it, you just find what you can do. Like you said, just body massage the different types of tools that you had mentioned as well is great. But now when if I grab lotion for whatever reason, and put it on my skin, it's amazing to me. It feels cold. It doesn't feel good anymore, And so now when I put just a slather of oil, just that one instant slather, I'm completely feel protected. It's so interesting. It's like it's like a blanket, but that just sounds a bit fluffy for some, that sounds a little bit like, but you giving the knowledge about what it's really doing for the lymph nodes, the tissues and all that to me is what I've really appreciated tonight.
Sure. I'm glad to offer that clarity. It really is. It's not about pampering. It's not about a spa.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a deep relationship to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about digesting the undigested that is stuck to your tissues, to your mind, to your emotional body, that prevents the resonance of your light.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're here on this call, or you're in Kristen's orbit, or you're watching this on a replay and you're in my community, you're here because you're not like mainstream culture. You're ready to call bull on the narrative of the aging process being a painful one, as one with stiffness and trouble. Because frankly, it's optional.
Yeah.
And you can change it, and it does take time. I'm not going to lie. When we talk about reorganizing fascia with these habits, with seasonal cleansing, with massaging, with oiling, with breath body practices, with early light dinners and getting up early in the morning and going to bed early, it will take you. Usually, fascia problems, they tend to get worse before they get better. If you don't do anything, they're going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So that stiff joint will get stiffer over time. But you can undo it. And I've unlocked some serious locked bodies, my own included, through a patient diligence of doing the habits. And doing these habits for like minimum 6 months to a year. That is really what it takes to literally shapeshift your body. It's simple.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it takes so much time to develop a mastery of it. How do you logistically fit in an oil massage on an almost daily basis when maybe you're a mom and you've got young kids in the house and you're working and just life,
Chris, can I ask another question about what about just breast tissue, like massaging all the lymph nodes within the breast tissue? Would you speak on that a little bit? Because I think that might speak to some of the women in our group too. I'm curious to know about that as well.
Yeah. Particularly for the breast area, it's one of the 3 common areas of lymph congestion is in the breast area, for men too. But particularly for women, because we're usually wearing bras and underwires and garments that are more constrictive. And so the self-massage for breasts is very, very important, particularly if you are concerned or maybe at risk for breast cancer, or you're a heavy coffee drinker, there's a high correlation between coffee or non-organic coffee and some of the mold and all the stuff that is in coffee and a lot of our food production correlated to breast massage. So if you drink coffee, you better make it organic. Save the tatas. And you got to massage them. And I have a video, I'll put that link in the chat as well, that shows me demonstrating breast massage in particular. And the breast massage is not like the dainty self breast exam you do in the shower with your finger pads kind of around the breast. I want you to think about, maybe for those of you who are moms who have breastfed, and you know the kind of like squeezing and mulling, you know, that occurs in that process. If not, then you're just going to be much more diligent about the squeezing and compression of the breasts. So using two hands to literally, you know, from the bottom and the top, press down, right? Doing some hand over hand combing action, particularly here in the armpit area where a lot of lymph nodes are, and some of the main drainages of where lymph dumps is around the armpits and the breast area. So hand over hand, squeezing, even like with a C shape of the hands, kind of sliding around the base of the breast tissue, lifting and pulling the breast tissue away from the ribs, right? These are the kind of more vigorous wringing, squeezing, and even ball rolling will work too, over close. You know, particularly if you've got a propensity to have lumpy breasts, you know, really move them, massage them. Before I forget, I'll look for that link. Any other questions bubbling up? Anything else you'd like to hear me riff on a little more?
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So Kristen, would you mind just copying what you've got and putting it in our Facebook?
Yeah,
Thank
my screen looks weird right now. I don't know what it's doing, to be honest.
We'll make sure we get you those links.
Yeah, there we go.
Today has been quirky computer day for everybody. So
Has it? Okay. Good to know that. I have it now. Yes, I will. I just did it. Okay. Got it.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Chris, this was awesome. I mean, just so good. And everybody, Chris is who's going to be co-hosting the retreat with me.
Yes.
Yeah, beyond excited to host with her. Like, I can't tell you, we're going to have so much fun. I mean, seriously. And when I got into the community with her that we're in together, where we both are just deepening our knowledge around coaching our communities, and from a business perspective and personal perspective and all of that. And I just have been on just a couple of different forums with Chris, and I just knew, there was like a fire, and I loved it, and I loved her energy. And so I was just happy when I reached out to her and she was able to say yes to co-host this retreat with me, because she's just going to bring a wealth of knowledge to the week that I couldn't bring. And so we both can just really blend what we do well, and it's going to be a really killer week together. So thank you.
It really is.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to share some of this knowledge. I want people to feel better, function better. And
right.
So let's get to it. Like, if you're not ready, that's okay. If you were looking for a quick answer, you're in the wrong place. Here is for the warriors, for Las Lobas.
Las Lobas. Yes, I love the rhythm and the dance and all that, which we're going to be doing at the retreat. It really elevates it. I know it adds the fun. I mean, a lot of this talk and what we do in our communities and our work is in each of our communities is deep work. There's a lot of deep work. There's a lot of deep stuff going on within everybody's lives. And I think it's so fun to think about just bringing in that adventure, that fun, because that's what I think is such a beautiful balance to be able to.
Longevity means you gotta learn how to play, right?
Yeah.
You have to keep creativity. It's not It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
this austere, yogic experience. And, I'm
The stagnation word is, I wrote about that today in my email, and the stagnation is so true. I mean, when you start to feel stagnant, and the lack of the massage, the lack of the self-massage is also a way to sort of, unfortunately, build up stagnation, right? And so fluidity, right? I was like, I felt stagnation, staying put in my space. It was time to move, bring fluidity, move, travel, go, do your thing. And so that, to me, it's all part of this. So much part of this, that stagnation piece. And
Yeah,
then,
I mean, a lot of times we don't know where to begin. And that's because we have so much disbursement in our energy. It's going everywhere. Let your touch, your own healing capacity, contain it. And let the oil seal it. And then over time, as a practice, that's going to build your stamina. It's going to build your capacity for life. So that when those pulsations of volatility, of pandemic, of whatever, shit shows coming down the line,
Mhm.
you're equipped. You're equipped. Right. And it's not going to, and it doesn't mean it won't be hard. It just means it will be less difficult.
Yeah.
You'll have more energy. And that's the kind of ease that I think we're looking for.
Yeah, I love that way. I love equipped. Like, that's how I feel about this work, and in each of these women that I have in my community, and is to equip them, like this all be equipped with as much as we can to be able to avoid the dis-ease and live in more ease. The more tools that we have, more simple tools we have, are what
really stepping into your power, and reclaiming your life. You get a chance every time you wake up. Not everyone is gifted that privilege, right? So you wake up in the morning, brand new day to try again, right? And to master it, I mean, you'll die 1,000 deaths in this process. That's kind of part of the admission ticket. Because a part of you has to die to make room for the new you. But if you're clinging, I'm not that kind of person. I just don't want. That's a fixed mindset. So it's going to take you longer to get there. That's why communities and working in dynamic groups are so much more effective. Because you get the momentum of the group and the habits of a community that is supporting you as well.
Yeah. Stuff, Chris. Awesome.
Right.
All right. Thank
Well,
you.
You're
Thank you
very
so much.
welcome. Yeah, you're very welcome. We'll make sure you get all those links, and reach out if anything comes up after this call. If something comes to mind that you want to ask, just shoot me an email or ask Kristen how to get in touch with me. There's a contact form right on my homepage to my website, so you can always use that as well. And I'm happy to talk more.
I'll
And
share your link.
to meet some of you in Mexico.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, ladies,
you.
thanks for jumping on and joining. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to hearing, more follow-up around the call.
This was very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. And I hope to meet some of you soon.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. It was great.
Guys, have a great night, you guys. Transition to
Okay.
some
Bye.
restful evening, okay?
Okay. Everybody
Good night.
sleep well. Good night.
Bye. Sleep well.
Well.
Mhm. All right, awesome. Let me tell my daughter from Thailand who just tried to call me that I will get back with her.